Hey everyone, I'm Josh and welcome back to another ranking. Today we're going to be ranking all the Alien movies since Alien Romulus just released. The review is now on my channel. And this one we're going to be ranking all the Alien movies and even the Alien vs Predator movies because they have aliens in them, so it counts. Before we get to the ranking though, make sure you do leave a like, subscribe to the channel. We're near 1,000 subscribers. It's free to do so, but let's get to number 9, which is going to be Alien vs Predator Requiem. And this is easily the most forgettable movie in the series of the Alien movies, partially because it wasn't needed. I personally think the ending, the first Alien vs Predator movie was a good. It ended on a good note. I thought it ended pretty well. I think it kind of wrapped things up. There was a little bit of a cliffhanger, but I just didn't feel like there was a whole need for another new Alien vs Predator movie. I just thought that the first one was just a fun side mission, and trying to make Alien vs Predator like a whole franchise was just the wrong move because there's not much deep themes there to really explore. I think you got the most out of it of the first movie, and my biggest complaint about this movie was that you cannot see a goddamn thing in this movie. I even watched it pretty much at nighttime, and I swear it's so dark for about 90% of the runtime. You cannot tell what is happening. You cannot tell what a single character is basically doing, except for like the alien and the predator. And it also makes it worse because an alien, a xenomorph, is already black, so putting him in darkness, pure darkness, doesn't help your case here. Like, it shows how forgettable this movie was. Like, I can hardly remember any details, and I just watched it for the first time just last week, but it still actually did decently well at the box office, making like 130 million on a $40 million budget. But I feel like it's one that no one ever really goes back to, or no one ever remembers. It is purely terrible. Number 8 is going to be Alien Resurrection, I guess, which might be a hot take, but on my first watch of this one, alongside Alien 3, I just didn't like it. I didn't hate it like Alien vs Predator 2, but it just felt weird, and it ruined some of the aspects for the Alien franchise for me. And as I said, that's my first watch. Maybe on other rewatches I'll like it more, because I did see people on Twitter saying like, oh, this is underrated, oh, it's actually not as bad as people say. But I have a hard time forgiving them in this movie for cloning Ripley after her death in Alien 3, or and changing basically her whole personality. It just ruined her character for me. Like, it's the point of where people complain about bringing characters back to life, and this, they brought her back to life, but as a totally different character. She's not even acting the same. She has good development by the end of the movie. It just didn't feel right to bring her back really at all, though. One thing that I did actually like about this movie was that it was actually pretty gross. It's one of the grossest alien movies with just how the aliens look. Like, that hybrid alien newborn was a really gross creature, but honestly, I gotta say, I was kind of sad when it died because it seems so human because it is a hybrid. And it was so nice to Ripley because that's basically like her half mom in a sense. And Joss Whedon wrote the script for this movie, and it's a pure disgrace. Bro really fell off a cliff after those serious allegations came out after him. But I just will say that it is like, I think this script is worse than the Alien vs Predator 2 script, just because it has so many ideas bouncing off each other. It doesn't really, form an identity for itself. I will say though, Ron Perlman was pretty good. I like the basketball sequence when him and Sigourney Weaver felt like really something out of a 90s movie. And my favorite parts of the movie were probably the water sequences. Thought that was fun, nightmare fuel horror escape. And Winona Ryder's character was the most compelling for me. And it really surprised me at the end, learning that she was a synthetic the whole time. But overall, I think this movie is just a very mixed bag for me, but maybe I'll like it a little bit more when I do rewatch it. Coming in number 7 is Alien 3, or I guess you'd call it Alien Cubed. Somehow, this was directed by David Fincher, but I like to imagine that he didn't direct it because there's just no way. There's no way that David Fincher directed this movie. Like, how did he go from this sauceless mess to Seven 3 years later? I will say though, I don't really hate this movie. I just feel like it is really sauceless, as I said, and it doesn't really look that great as an alien movie. Usually the alien movies look pretty unique, but it just looked flat, and its coloring and its plot kind of lost me, especially from the beginning. That's my biggest issue. The opening basically says that Ripley is the lone survivor after aliens. Frustrates me because you build up these relationship with these characters in Aliens, and then boom, Alien 3, Newt and Hicks are dead, and Bishop is basically out of commission. I'm like, when the movie started, I'm like, what? what are we doing here? Like, I love Bishop and Newt, and it could have been somewhat interesting in this one to see, more of Ripley being a mom figure, those relationships even going further here. But they just killed him off, and I'm like, really? Then what's the point of that relationship developing in Aliens? Like, what's the point of that? And either I'm stupid or I forget, but I think it's a major plot hole here to not explain how these face huggers or the eggs got on this ship to kill these characters and somehow impregnate Ripley with the new alien queen. Like, how would Ripley, after both what happens to her in Alien and Aliens, not check the ship to see if anything freaky's going on? She already had that issue in the first Alien movie with the xenomorph. How is she not checking the ship here? It's a major plot hole for me. And as I said, it's another script with a boring and lifeless dialogue that felt, pretty bland all the way over. I mean, I did like the idea of it having being set on a prison planet. I thought that was a pretty cool concept, but I think it just wasn't utilized that well. It felt like we were just going around in circles. And I guess you could say, maybe you could say, the planet's just destroyed. Everything looks, terrible because of that. But I just felt like the set design just did not have a lot going for it in this one. Usually the alien movies have great set design. Really, sacrifice at the end is probably my most positive remark about this. It's nice, it's touching, but it would have hit better if Alien 3 was a better movie and she didn't return in the next movie. Coming in number 6 is going to be the Alien vs Predator, the first one, not that crap mess of the second one. And let's get this straight, this isn't really a good movie, but it's a fun movie. I will say I had a lot of fun with this one. Going into it, I was like, oh, these movies aren't going to be that great, and they're not that great, but this one, it has a lot of fun moments in it, and it went on, like the second one, to be, a pretty decent hit at the box office considering its budget. And I'm just surprised that these even came to fruition, because I would never imagine, the person pitching this movie going like, oh, I want to make an Alien vs Predator movie, and they would say, oh yeah, let's greenlight those. And it just doesn't make any sense why they would greenlight them, because especially the second one, like, why would you even greenlight the second one? This one has some sauce in it because it's located in like a buried pyramid. That is some really cool stuff right there. And like the little history that they're going trying to explain against like the xenomorphs and predators fighting it out for hundreds and hundreds of years. I thought that was actually a really cool idea. I actually got along with that. And a no-name cast can make a movie even more fun, because you don't really know any of these people, so you can't really make fun of them in this sense. And the fight scenes between the predators and aliens were actually pretty innovative and fun to watch overall. And I gotta say, this movie has one of the coolest things happen in it in the whole Alien franchise, because one of the human characters, one of the last surviving ones, gets to have a xenomorph head as a shield, because I'm pretty sure, if I remember, the Predator kind of smacked the head off the xenomorph, and the human character literally uses it as a shield, which is basically where they got the idea for that one popcorn bucket for Alien Romulus. I thought that was just great. What a great idea to use. Number 5 is gonna be Prometheus. This is where we start getting in the great tier for me, and ones that I really do enjoy going back to and rewatching. My biggest gripe about this one, though, is that it's not really an alien movie, because technically there's not really any xenomorphs in the film, except like a little hybrid one at the end. But my biggest gripe kind of ties into my biggest pro and positive, which is because it deals with God and the creators of the humans, who are the engineers. I really did enjoy the idea and themes that Ridley Scott was playing with, like that little sandbox that he discovered here. And it's possibly one of the best looking alien films. I really enjoyed the CGI in this one. And this one is basically comes after it's been like 10 to 20 years since we've had one. Like, every shot was filled with so much detail. Felt like, as I said, Ridley Scott was really in his bag on this new world that he did envision. And it kind of sucks that he didn't get to finish this trilogy after, Alien Covenant. But I hope they get back to it one of these days. I hope he does get to finish it, because I feel like, deep down inside him, he does want to finish the story. And I'd be really interested to see the finishing, touches he would like to put on it. And it gave us one of the best and deepest characters in this franchise, which is David, who is a synthetic played by Michael Fassbender, who killed it in this role. Oh my God, he was so good. He basically turns a switch in the second half, and you really do feel it. And you also can feel the kind of dynamic between Elizabeth Shaw and David. It's kind of like a love jealousy story. Elizabeth Shaw, she has that one C-section scene that when I first watched this a couple years ago, it just made me sick to my stomach. I was like, that is some gross stuff. I'm pretty sure that she would be hurting a lot more than she does in the movie. Like that recovery would be pretty painful to be have one of those, hybrid aliens in you. And I love how this weaves kind of into Alien Romulus, which we'll get into in a second. But I just thought that this movie is beautiful. And if you're a Prometheus or Alien Covenant hater, I don't think that we can be friends because I think that these movies really hit it out of the park in certain ways and certain aspects. Number four, I got Alien Covenant. This one is again one that hated on by critics and audiences when it first came out because it's kind of like Prometheus. A lot of fans were sour about this one, but I gotta say it goes hard. Oh my god, really Scott said fuck it and just created a beautiful mix between the Prometheus ideas and the Alien ideas while also making it a pure kind of sequel to Prometheus with like 20 years in between and all that. It honestly is just a fun ride. Like I watched it for the first time last week and I was like, do people not like this? And then I got online and people were just kind of bashing it. It's kind of like a love-hate relationship with this movie with Alien fans. Some fans really love it, some fans really hate it. But I think if you didn't like Prometheus, I think that you should like Alien Covenant because that is where you're actually seeing the aliens a lot more. The neomorphs were really cool. The xenomorphs are in this too. It's a great cast for this one too. I actually felt, kind of emotionally invested into actually a couple characters into this one. I'm never really emotionally invested into really any alien characters except maybe like one out of every movie. And it's great that Michael Fassbender got to play both synthetics in this one. Walter, which is the new one, the new version of a David that we already met, and Walter was the OG. Rest in peace, Walter. We loved Walter. He was such a nice guy. And their fight scene was great. I loved the Walter vs. David fight scene and the one scene with them in the flute. Ooh, that is just a beautiful scene. Really, Scott really knows how to plan his scenes and just make them so beautiful. And the backburster scene, oh god, so gross. But it was great, especially when they slipped on the puddle of blood twice. I thought that was hilarious. And the shower sequence in the end will go down as some of the best scenes in this whole entire franchise. I love that shower sequence because it just comes up, the tail comes up, and then it goes boom, boom, you're dead. I thought that was a great sequence. The ending, though, has you shook to your core, seeing that David basically succeeded in his goal to basically take everyone, to start testing even more people, because that's what he wanted to do. He wanted to find more people, and it makes it even more horrifying is that Daniels goes into cryo sleep, basically knowing this. So she basically has to go to sleep and gets frozen knowing this, and she's like horrified. And then Michael Fassbender's like, shh, don't let the bed bugs bite. And I'm like, oh my god, he was just great in this, playing both roles. I just had a great time in this movie. I think it's just fantastic. In third place comes Aliens, which might be a hot take for some people after seeing Alien Romulus, but I still love them all. Aliens is terrific. I think that James Cameron turned this from a science fiction horror movie into a science fiction mixed with action into a horror movie, and I'm not complaining. What James Cameron can do with action is nothing short of fantastic, and what I love about this one is that you can either watch the regular version or basically the extended special version. You don't really miss much, and they're both really great and fantastic movies, with the extended edition of course having some fun scenes in there with the turret scene. I think is one of the greater scenes in this movie, and you're bringing in a new synthetic, which was Bishop, which was a really cool one. I actually liked him a lot. A really great character, and I love the relationship that built between Newt and Ripley, which was sadly ruined in Alien 3 because they had to kill Newt for some reason. I don't know why they had to kill her. Seeing the alien queen for the first time was kind of freaky. She's kind of freaky character design, but I loved how the final fight is basically queen versus queen, because it's the alien queen versus Ripley, which you could call her a queen. And that one line at the end where she's like, "Get away from her, you bitch," will always be one of the most quoted lines in history. It will go down in history. This movie will go down in history. I love the idea, just like Twisters earlier this year. I love the idea of just naming a sequel basically with the plural tense, basically just adding an S to it instead of just being like Alien 2. It's Aliens. I think that's just really electric. It makes you go into it. You're like, oh, we're about to get some great stuff. And the amount of xenomorphs that you actually get to see in this one was great. They're just demolishing all the xenomorphs, just using the pulse rifles. The pulse rifles were really cool in this one. I love how they're utilized. But James Cameron brought us an action horror science fiction masterpiece. Number two is going to be Alien Romulus, though I said that this might be a hot take, but I absolutely love this movie, and I'm begging Fede Alvarez to stay in this universe and either continue this story or try out a new idea, because his vision for the Alien movies fueled me with so much happiness. I've seen it twice so far, and I definitely want to go back either like 2 or 3 more times. It is just amazing. Oh my god, seeing this in IMAX with the expanded mate ratio. Oh, it looks beautiful, and I just loved it, man. I cannot wait until the 4K release comes out too. I think it'll look even better on disc. And I love how Fede Alvarez played with the ideas and took ideas from the original Alien, the Alien Isolation game, which is fantastic, and even Prometheus. I'm gonna get into some spoilers here, so click off if you haven't seen it. But I was so surprised to see him take ideas from Prometheus and kind of take those little, the kind of like the black goo and those little kind of stone structures from the movie. And then in the third act, you get basically a kind of hybrid of a human baby and the creators, which was so interesting. I love how he played in that sandbox, because as a big fan of Prometheus, I wanted to see something like that, and we actually got that. Like, you get the xenomorphs, you get all the other stuff, and then you get a big hybrid at the end, which is very, very cool stuff there. And just like Dune Part 2, this one is a big technical movie with some great production design. Like, actually it feels like you're on this spaceship. Great practical elements. I love the practical xenomorphs. I love the kind of animatronics, the facehuggers. A lot of facehuggers in this one, which I did like a lot. There's a hallway sequence in here with a lot of different facehuggers, and the sound design. I think the Alien movies always, always have great sound design, and it's such a fast-paced movie too. It felt like kind of like the quickest 2 hours of my life this year. Some movies have been really badly paced this year, but this one flew by for me. Kaylee Spaney, David Johnson, Isabella Merced were such clear standouts in here, especially David Johnson. I felt like he was just great. I think the Alien movies are, they're about the aliens, but I think they're becoming more about the synthetics and the aliens at the same time. Like, David Johnson as the synthetic was just so compelling, and that third act was legitimately amazing and filled with so much nightmare fuel. As I said, that hybrid at the end freaked me out. And there's a sequence here when Kaylee Spaney's walking, and it's kind of just walking behind her in like the mist, and you see its shadow. I was like, that is just, it's terrific filmmaking. And there's one jump scene in that third act that actually made me jump from my seat both times I've seen it. I can't, I knew it was coming, but I was like, oh my god, it got me good. And I love the play I loved how they kind of played with gravity in this movie. And there's one sequence kind of in the third act with the pulse rifle that had me grinning so hard. I found it fantastic. I'd be interested in seeing Kaylee Spaney return to this, kind of like back in a sequel, but I am not too sure where the story would go, because it kind of does end on a great note here. I thought that this was a fantastic entry, but nothing will beat number one, which is of course the original Alien, one of the best movies of all time. Will be talked about for centuries, because it left a huge mark for not only science fiction genre but also the horror genre, and blending those together, making like a blended genre there. And I love Ridley Scott. I feel like he has a lot of misses, but when he's hitting, he hits really hard, just like was showing with this movie. I'm hoping that Gladiator 2 doesn't disappoint, but we'll just have to wait and see. And it's one I do love revisiting, because it starts out so calm just with this crew, and they go exploring, then it escalates, escalates a little bit with a facehugger, then it escalates even more, then it escalates into a horror funhouse, and by the end, it's Ripley versus the Xenomorph, and she knocks it out. And she's like, I'm winning this fight. And, I love how that connects basically into Alien Romulus. It's so interesting. The practical elements are, of course, some of the best used in a movie to date. They're off the charts with the real person in the Xenomorph costume. The chest burster looked fantastic. Like, just imagine being in that theater when this movie came out, and the audience probably was like, what was even that? The audience was probably so scared of that, because I doubt they showed any of that in the trailers back then. The trailers weren't very, big back then. So the people were probably like scarred for life after that chest burster scene. It also made Sigourney Weaver like a big movie star, and I think it's deserved, because I thought that she was brilliant in this movie. You actually cared for her character a lot. And the cat was, of course, the MVP. We all love the cat in this one. Just overall, the best Alien film where basically everything works in the best ways possible. So that is my ranking of all the Alien movies. I, of course, love this franchise. Even with the bad movies, I have a fun time with them in certain aspects, but nothing beats the original Alien. That's it for my ranking. Leave your ranking down below. I'd love to see your guys' different rankings, different views, and different opinions. If you did enjoy this ranking, though, make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.